He didn't type a single word. He didn't even move his lips. And yet, the computer knew exactly what he was thinking. At first, it sounded like science fiction, a machine that could predict thoughts before they were spoken. But this wasn't a scene from Black Mirror. It happened in a real Stanford lab, where a team of neuroscientists built an algorithm that turned brain activity into language. And here's where it gets wild. They didn't just decode thoughts. They learned how to predict them before they even formed. At first, that sentence sounds impossible, like something from a sci-fi novel written decades too early. But what happened inside that lab was real. Scientists weren't just scanning brainwaves anymore. They were training artificial intelligence to recognize patterns of thinking itself. You see, every thought, every flicker of imagination, every inner word, every image that flashes in your mind leaves behind a trail, not a visible one, but a neurological signature, a sequence of firing neurons that could be detected, measured, and interpreted. For years, researchers thought it was noise, just static inside the brain. But with the rise of deep learning, that noise became data that could be mapped, labeled, and predicted. The promise of technology has always been simple: to understand us better, to know what we need before we ask, to simplify our lives, to close the gap between mind and machine. But what happens when technology understands us too well? So well that it can see the next step in our thoughts before we take it? Because in 2023, a quiet breakthrough blurred the line between privacy and prediction forever. It didn't happen on a stage or at a flashy product launch. It happened quietly, in a research paper most people never read. One that claimed an algorithm could reconstruct language purely from brain scans. No microphones, no cameras, just thought. The researchers began with a simple experiment. Volunteers were placed in an fMRI machine, the kind that tracks blood flow in the brain, while they listened to stories, podcasts, and random sentences. As the participants processed the words, the scanner captured activity in thousands of regions across the brain, millisecond by millisecond. That data was then paired with corresponding text, the exact words being heard at that moment. The AI model began learning connections, how certain patterns of neural activity correlated with specific meanings, tones, and sentence structures. And over time, the system started to do something no one expected. It didn't just recognize the words people were hearing. It began to anticipate what would come next. The model could predict how the brain's activity would shift before the next word was even played. It was as if the AI had started reading the brain's intentions. Now imagine that scaled up. Thousands of hours of brain data, not just from hearing words, but from imagining them, from silently reading, from remembering, from daydreaming. The model absorbed all of it, not just the words, but the structure of thought itself. And that's when it happened. The AI stopped needing the external cues. It could look at brain activity alone and reconstruct what the person was thinking, sometimes with eerie accuracy. At first, it was clumsy. It got words wrong, jumbled grammar, mixed metaphors. But over time, it improved. It learned the patterns unique to each person, their mental fingerprint. Because here's the thing, every brain is different, but not random. Like handwriting, your thoughts have a recognizable rhythm, a neural style. The way you form sentences, visualize ideas, or recall emotions creates consistent electrical and chemical traces. And once the algorithm recognized your fingerprint, it didn't need to guess anymore. It could finish your sentences before you could. Think about that for a second. Not just predicting your next word on a phone keyboard, not suggesting the next song on your playlist, but predicting the shape of your thought. One researcher described it as the brain's autocomplete. But even that doesn't capture the full weight of it, because autocomplete is passive. This was active, responsive, anticipatory. The system wasn't just reflecting your thinking, it was forecasting it. That might sound abstract, but here's why it matters. When a machine can predict your thoughts, it doesn't just understand what you're thinking, it knows what you're about to think. And that subtle shift changes everything about human agency, decision-making, and privacy. Before 2023, prediction meant patterns of behavior, what you might buy, watch, or click on next. But now, prediction moved inside your mind. It no longer needed your actions. Your intention was enough. And the implications ripple far beyond science. If an algorithm can interpret brain activity well enough to reconstruct words, what happens when that capability meets commercial technology? What happens when tech companies, the ones already using microexpressions and biometric signals to target ads, suddenly have access to your mental data? It's not hard to imagine the next step. Headsets that claim to read your focus levels, smart glasses that measure emotional engagement, fitness devices that track stress and mental state, all harmless on the surface, until those measurements feed the same kind of predictive model. Until the system starts learning the subtle correlations between your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. The brain doesn't hide as much as we think it does. The smallest change in attention, the briefest spark of imagination, it all produces measurable electrical activity. For decades, that activity was too complex to decode. But now, AI can handle that complexity, mapping it with precision once thought impossible. The researchers themselves call it a translation system between brain and language. And in a sense, that's exactly what it is. A translator between your private inner monologue and the external world. But translation always comes with interpretation. And interpretation means power. Whoever controls the system that reads your thoughts doesn't just hold your data. They hold your mind's raw material. The building blocks of identity, preference, fear, and desire. That's why the breakthrough of 2023 didn't just represent scientific progress. It marked the beginning of a new kind of vulnerability, the kind you can't encrypt or delete. Because unlike passwords or fingerprints, you can't change your thought pattern. Your brainwave signature is you. The scientists behind the project claimed it was a step toward helping people with paralysis communicate again. And it was. Their work could restore voices, rebuild language for those who lost it. The benefits are immense. But beneath the headlines, the implications lingered. If AI could understand your words before you spoke them, what else could it learn to predict? Your fears? Your secrets? Your doubts? Before even you admit them? Every thought begins as a whisper in the neurons, invisible, fleeting. But once it becomes data, it stops being private. And that was a quiet shift the world didn't notice. The moment thought itself became predictable. Imagine sitting in silence, no sound, no movement. And suddenly, words begin appearing on your screen. I'm feeling anxious. You stare at it confused because you haven't said a word. You haven't even realized you're anxious yet. But somehow the system did. That's not telepathy. It's not magic. It's math, terrifyingly precise math. Behind that single sentence are millions of neural correlations, electrical patterns flickering through your brain, captured, processed, and interpreted by an algorithm trained to understand you. Not what you've done, not what you've said, but what you're about to feel. Every signal in your brain, a spike of dopamine here, a surge of activity in your amygdala there, becomes data. The algorithm doesn't just record it, it models it. It turns your brain into a forecast system, one capable of predicting the emotional weather before it changes. So before you even know you're anxious, the machine has already seen the storm forming. It's mapped every chemical hint, every neurological tremor, every correlation that hints at a shift in mood, and it translates it into language. It sounds unbelievable, but this isn't fantasy anymore. The models don't need full sentences or speech. They just need patterns. And the human brain, for all its mystery, is a pattern machine. But here's the part that nobody talks about. This technology, it's not trapped in research papers anymore. It's moving fast. What started in sterile university labs, surrounded by whiteboards and ethical guidelines, is now crossing over into something far bigger and far less controlled. Private companies are filing patents for neural intent decoding. Startups are pitching cognitive insight engines. Defense departments are quietly funding programs in predictive cognition. The world calls it innovation. Silicon Valley calls it the next trillion-dollar race. And the term they use is chillingly simple: cognitive prediction. Because whoever can predict thought can control decisions. Think about that. If an algorithm knows what you're about to feel, it can shape what you'll do next. If it predicts hesitation, it can remove doubt. If it senses confidence, it can nudge you toward commitment. That's not hypothetical. It's behavioral economics rewritten through the lens of neural data. marketing, politics, finance. They've all relied on psychology for decades. But now, it's not psychology they're after. It's neurology. Because emotion isn't a mystery when you can measure it. Choice isn't random when you can predict it. And in the hands of the wrong system or the right one, depending on who you ask, that power becomes irresistible. But let's rewind. Before the billion-dollar race, before the headlines about mind-reading AI, before the investors and defense contractors, all started with a single, deceptively simple question. Can you build an algorithm that truly understands intention? That question became the spark. At first, it was philosophical, something debated in classrooms and research journals. Can a machine know what you mean before you act? Can it sense not just behavior, but will? But for a handful of scientists, the question wasn't abstract. It was a challenge. They began by studying the most subtle signs of human thought, the milliseconds of brain activity that happen right before you move, speak, or decide, the pre-action flicker, the neural whisper that says, "I'm about to choose." They found patterns, faint but consistent. Your brain fires in predictable ways before you consciously make a choice. A signal builds in one area, then cascades to another, translating internal intention into physical action. To most, that was just neuroscience. To these researchers, it was potential. If those signals could be captured, labeled, and learned, then intention itself could become data. And once it becomes data, it can be modeled. And once it's modeled, it can be predicted. It started innocently enough, helping people with paralysis communicate again, detecting emotional distress before panic attacks, even improving focus and mental health through neurofeedback. But as the data grew, as algorithms got sharper, faster, and more adaptive, something unexpected happened. The system stopped needing explicit cues. They started anticipating them. They began completing patterns before humans could. A thought halfway formed, the model could finish it. An emotion about to rise, it could label it. An intention not yet acted upon, it could forecast it. That moment, when AI stopped waiting for input and started preempting it, was the real breakthrough. Because the difference between reaction and prediction is everything. Reaction makes technology useful. Prediction makes it powerful. And in a world where billions of dollars depend on knowing what you'll do next, whether you'll buy, vote, believe, or click, prediction isn't just a feature, it's control. That's why governments are investing quietly. That's why corporations are scrambling. That's why every major tech company is building some version of neural intent mapping. The idea that your brain's next move is just another data point waiting to be monetized. So here we are, machines that don't just respond to you, but anticipate you. Systems that sense your emotion before you feel it. Devices that can finish your thoughts, not because they read your mind, but because they learn the invisible logic of it. And it all started with that one question, whispered in a lab years ago. Can you build an algorithm that truly understands intention? Now the question isn't whether we can, it's whether we should. Early experiments used fMRI scans, watching blood flow in the brain as subjects read sentences. Then came language models, GPTs, transformers, that could find patterns faster than any human. Put the two together, and you get what some now call NeuroGPTs. These systems don't just see what you're doing, they sense what you're about to do. Your purchases, your emotional triggers, your hesitations before a yes or no. And suddenly marketing, politics, even relationships look different because prediction becomes persuasion. Now pause for a moment. What if your social feed doesn't just react to you? What if it prepares you? What if before you felt lonely, it showed you someone smiling? Before you got angry, it softened your feed? Before you questioned something, it distracted you? That's not theory anymore. That's happening. Companies already use emotion recognition, AI, on facial data from cameras you don't even notice. Combine that with thought prediction models, and you get the holy grail influence, real-time emotional steering. Because if you can predict what someone will feel next, you can shape what they'll believe next. But here's where the story turns. Not everyone is scared. Some are calling this the empathy machine, a future where AI anticipates depression before it hits, detects cognitive disorders early, or helps paralyzed patients speak again. One patient, unable to move or talk for years, used the same tech to communicate his first words through brain signals alone. I am still here. 3 words that made a room full of scientists cry. So yes, this algorithm can be terrifying. Terrifying because it reaches into a part of you that was never meant to be shared. The quiet, private space between your thoughts, the final frontier of human solitude, no longer belongs solely to you. But at the same time, it can be beautiful. Because that same power, the one that reads your fear, your pain, your hesitation, can also read your hope. It can see when you're drifting into sadness and pull you back. It can detect the earliest signs of depression and alert someone before it's too late. It can give a voice to the voiceless, literally, by translating the silent electrical storms of the brain into spoken words. For a paralyzed patient who hasn't spoken in years, that's not science fiction. That's salvation. One moment of silence transformed into connection. One algorithm turning thought into sound and loneliness into communication. So yes, this technology can be terrifying, but it can also be a miracle. And that's the contradiction we live in now, the razor-thin line between progress and peril. Technology that saves us can also rewrite us. The same machine that gives a man back his voice could someday use that same data to shape what he says. The same system that predicts happiness could also decide what happiness should look like. And the only difference is who controls it. Because control is everything. In the right hands, predictive AI is compassion. In the wrong hands, it's manipulation disguised as empathy. Imagine an algorithm that doesn't just understand emotion, but decides which emotions you're allowed to have. It could soothe unrest before protests start. It could encourage loyalty before doubt forms. It could sell you peace, one calculated dopamine hit at a time. That's the power shift nobody notices happening. We once thought data was about what we did. Now it's about what we might do. And that's why the question isn't whether AI can read your mind anymore. It can. The real question is, will you still be allowed to keep a thought that's truly your own? That's what's at stake now. Because the next evolution of surveillance isn't cameras or microphones. It's understanding. And understanding, when weaponized, is the most invasive form of control imaginable. So the next time you scroll through your feed and see something that feels uncannily perfect, like it knew exactly what you needed, exactly what emotion to trigger, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, why this? Why now? Because that ad, that post, that video is not random. It's a mirror built from every click, every hesitation, every second of your attention. It's not reacting to you. It's anticipating you. It probably did know. Your data trained it. Every like, every scroll, every unfinished search. Your patterns taught it. The rhythm of your curiosity, the pulse of your emotions, and even your silence, the moments you didn't react, became input. Because in this system, silence speaks volumes. Silence tells it what you're avoiding, what unsettles you, what holds your focus even when you pretend it doesn't. The algorithm learns from that. It feeds on it. And now, it doesn't just understand you. It predicts you. Not just what you'll click next, but what you'll want next. Not just what you'll believe, but what you'll be ready to believe. It knows when to comfort you, when to outrage you, and when to distract you. And that's the quiet evolution of control. No one forces you to think differently. You just drift differently, guided by invisible probabilities, soft suggestions, and personalized truths. The algorithm isn't listening anymore. It doesn't need to. It's waiting for your next move, your next emotion, your next thought. Because the future prediction isn't about understanding the human mind. It's about staying one step ahead of it. And the scariest part? It's already there. What do you think? Would you trust a machine that knows what you're about to think? Even before you do? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more deep, real-world stories about where tech is really taking us, hit like, share this with a friend who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe. Because next time, we'll uncover something even darker. The AI that doesn't just predict your thoughts, it rewrites them.